Big thank you to our Cardboard Odysseys channel members for embarking on this journey with us. Your support fuels our adventure and keeps the creativity flowing. Remember, if you want to join our Odyssey, simply click the join button below this video. Thanks for being part of our community and supporting our cardboard dreams. Hello and welcome everybody, it's Matt from Cardboard Odysseys. I've got a deck tech for you with Indominus Rex Alpha. When this card was spoiled, I was like, holy crap, this guy is insane. It's like that one insect where like you get to exile a bunch of stuff from your graveyard, except for it's just better in every way, in my opinion. You discard cards, you get all the effects, you don't exile them, so you can use them again for reanimation targets. You also draw cards for every counter that gets put on this thing. It's pretty badass. We've got two different budgets. This budget is the no budget version, so you know, obviously $2,500 or $600 is a lot. It's mainly the lands, as you normally know. Lands and instants, a little bit of artifact because of Jeweled Lotus and Great Henge. But the lands are $1,900. However, I also do have a $500 version here, using a lot of cards that people already have. So this is probably going to be significantly less as far as budget is concerned. But if you're not familiar with what the card does, let's pull that up. And the theme of the deck is going to be basically just all around Indominus Rex, casting Indominus Rex, and of course, discarding a bunch of cards and utilizing those cards in other ways, but mostly just around Indominus Rex Alpha. So, this card is 5 mana for 6/6, already decent value there. As it enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards. It enters with a flying counter on it if a card this way has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Haste, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. And then when it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each counter on it. Pretty insane. So what I've done is you'll notice a few cards in here just before we go into it. You'll notice a few cards in here. They work on 1/1 counters, and they work about. It doesn't care about what the counter is, as long as it just comes to the battlefield with counters. So for instance, like Biophagus here, this one it just gives a 1/1 counter when you cast it if it's a creature spell. And that'll trigger an additional draw. So not only are we trying to do like word soup, but we're also trying to utilize some of the extra counter abilities. So it's a little bit of a mismatch of the two archetypes, but I think that with a deck revolving around the commander, and with the commander that's a 6/6, if it was a 7/7 it'd be even better, but of course 6/6 is fine as well, especially when we're adding 1/1 counters, giving double strike and all the other keyword soup. Trample of course is useful, haste is also very useful, just being able to commander somebody out. And then also this deck has a bunch of other powerful creatures, so that's what we're trying to do in the deck, and I'm very, very excited to play this. Have not played it yet, but I will be playing it Thursday, so I can like type in the comments or the description or something on how the deck plays out. Maybe even a short, I don't know. So the first one here, you'll notice the majority of them are going to be keyword soup. So if I just say keyword soup, it's not really about the creature, it's more about what the keywords are on the creature. This one here, Alpha Deathclaw, one of the new ones from Fallout series, has Menace and Trample, which is pretty good. But the nice thing is it has enter the battlefield triggers, or when it comes to monstrous triggers. So if we do reanimate this, or if we do just happen to have to cast it, it actually has an extra ability on it. It's not just for keyword soup. So this is partial keyword soup, but also partial has an ability on it as well. Banehound, this is just for keyword soup, so really the creature isn't that big of a deal. So keyword soup means it's just for the lines on it, meaning like lifelink and haste. Lifelink and haste is very important to have, and you'll get 2 draws from that. So this is basically like a discard, draw 2, and then also give your commander lifelink and haste. It's pretty good. You've got Biophagus, like I already mentioned. It's a mana dork, but if you spend that mana to cast a creature, it enters it with an additional 1/1 counter on it, which will make it stronger, of course, but also draw an additional card. This is just a mana dork. You've got Bantu. This is basically keyword soup. Indestructible is a very important thing because your commander, you're kind of, not really a Voltron commander, but kind of. Because you're really trying to kill people with your commander, or at the very least get a bunch of value from it. Think kind of Atraxa, but a little bit more hoops to jump through, and a different way to build the deck. I'm talking about the Atraxa, the 7-drop one that like, you look at the top like 10 cards and get 7 different things from it. So kind of like that, but built differently. Yeah. You've got Lead Halfling, just a mana dork for legendary permanents, otherwise just has for colorless. Elder Gargaroth, this is keyword soup, but also a decent creature to be able to cast or reanimate, so that's pretty good. Well, I guess I'll read what it says. It has, whenever it attacks or blocked, choose 1. You get a 3/3 beast, gain 3 life, or draw a card, so that's pretty good. And it's on a 6/6 body for 5. Reach, Trample. You've got End Raise Forerunners, Vidge Trample Haste, so keyword soup, but also if you do end up either discarding this and then reanimating it or just casting it, all your creatures get +2/+2 Vigilance and Trample other creatures. It's pretty good. Fauna Shaman, this is a way to get the specific keyword soups that you're looking for. This gives you the ability to discard a card. Maybe you have like duplicates of keywords and you want to be able to get specific keywords for your commander, or just like maybe discard like a mana dork or whatever. This allows you to discard that card to the graveyard and then also get a really, really good card. Very important. Very important. For easy free tutor. Glissa Sunslayer, this one is mainly there for the first strike and death touch, which is important, but also the creature's not terrible as well. 3 mana for a 3/3 that also has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, lose a life, destroy target enchantment, or remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. All useful things, but realistically it's mainly there for keyword soup. This is strictly keyword soup. Flying first strike and haste is pretty dang good. You've got Kefnet, Mindful, also keyword soup. Flying Indestructible, 2 very important taglines. I don't ever really foresee casting this creature as a creature, but I would just use it for the keywords. You've got Temiri the Cursed, also keyword soup. The effect really doesn't matter. You've got Nighthawk Scavenger, keyword soup as well. You've got Night Veil Predator, keyword soup. Flying Death Touch and Hexproof, very important. Very nice to have. 3 very important keywords and also draw 3 basically. You've got Null Priest of Oblivion. This is Menace and Lifelink, also keyword soup. You could kick this, so it's 6 mana to reanimate something basically. So it's keyword soup, but also has a little bit of flexibility to be used in another way. You've got Per Imaginative Rascal. This one is mainly you don't play the partner. I mean, I guess you could, but you don't. I don't, at least. Maybe it's worth it. If you want to, go for it. Just remove one of the less important keyword soups and you'll be good to go. It has, the main thing I like about it, it has, if 1 or more counters would be put onto a permanent your team controls, that many plus 1 of each of those kind of counters are put on that permanent instead. That means that this, with all of the keywords, they're each individual counters. So you'll double the draw, and you'll double the counters. So if there's 1/1 counters, you'll get 2 indestructible counters, blah, 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 etc., etc. And you'll get a draw for each one of those as well, which is fantastic. So, a lot of drawing. You've got Questing Beast. This is keyword soup, but the creature's actually very, very insane for what it is. 4 mana for a 4/4 Vigilance, Death Touch Haste. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. And whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. You can cast this for what it is. It's very good as a creature by itself, but also giving your commander Vidge, Death Touch, and Haste is also very strong. You've got Rodus the Indomitable, keyword soup. Not really that important to ever really cast this. You can if you want to give like one of your creatures trample if you need to. Realistically, you're really wanting just the indestructibility from it. You've got Scavenged Brawler. This is just keyword soup. You would never really cast the actual creature itself. You can do the exile from the graveyard thing, which is nice, and give a ton of creatures, or give one of your creatures a bunch of counters and whatnot. That's also quite fantastic as a sorcery, but still. So 4/1 counters, a flying counter, a Vidge counter, and a trample counter, and a lifelink counter. That's really good. So not only do you get the flying Vidge, trample, lifelink, if like your commander gets removed, the next time you cast it, you can just exile this and do it again. You won't draw the cards, but that's fine. I really, really like Spark Double. It comes in. It has the enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except for as an additional 1/1 counter on it. If it's a creature, and a loyalty if it's a planeswalker. What I was thinking with this is that you have Spark Double enter as Indominus Rex Alpha, and since it goes around the legendary rule, you'll just get a bunch of draw for free. You won't have you still have everything's enter the battlefield, so you'll have enter the battlefield triggers for everything, so it's basically like having a secondary commander. You just have to make sure that you have enough fuel to do both. I mean, you're drawing a bunch of cards, so I could see a situation where you go Indominus Rex Alpha, discard a bunch of cards, but then you're drawing a bunch of cards, and then you can play Spark Double and then do the same thing. So it's pretty powerful, actually. Now, Tusky Bearer of Secrets, 4 mana for a 1/1. This one is mainly in here for the indestructibility. You could cast it, whenever you deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. It's nice, but it's mainly in there for the indestructible counter. Triplicate Hunter, this is just keyword soup. You could cast it It's not that bad. I mean, it's a big creature, 9/9 with Flying Vig Trample. So, and then when it dies, you get 3. You can basically get a 3/3 of each of those other keywords. But it's mainly in here for the keyword soup. Vengeful Reaper, you could reanimate it. That's a really good reanimate target. Vengeful Reaper is here just for keyword soup. Flying Death Touch Haste. Same thing with Venom Thrope, Flying Death Touch Hexproof. Hexproof and Indestructible are your main 2 keywords that you're really looking for. Vorinclex, this has Trample Haste, but this also doubles the number of counters that you get put on something. So if you happen to have this out there, maybe by like reanimating it first before your Indominus Rex Alpha, you would double all of the counters and draw double those cards with Indominus Rex Alpha, which is fantastic. You've got Weathered Sentinels. This one's funny because it gives your commander Defender, which is not very good, but it does give it 4 keywords, so it's drawing 4 cards. It's probably not worth running. I actually don't know why it's in here, to be quite honest. I guess maybe what I was thinking that it was it would get the attack as though it didn't have Defender clause, but it shouldn't. So probably this probably won't be in the probably won't be in the deck. You got Wilson Refined Grizzly, 2 mana for a 2/2. This spell can't be countered, and you also get Vigilance Reach Trample. This is mainly just in here for the Vig Reach Trample. It's a decent card, but it's mainly used for Voltron decks because it's a very powerful creature for 2 mana. You've got Winding Constrictor. If 1 or more counters would be put on an artifact or creature control, that many plus 1 of each of those kind of permanents. This is the same thing as that other the Rascal. And then if you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many plus 1 of each of those counters instead, which is fantastic. If you're playing against Poison, I guess you wouldn't want to play this card. Or I guess maybe Rad counters. But other than that, Winding Constrictor is just bonkers for the first part for your commander. Then Yark to Desecrated, because you're going to be discarding a bunch of things and then getting the Enter the Battlefield triggers from Indominus Rex Alpha. This is a really good card to have on the battlefield before you cast it, or just getting Death Touch and Lifelink as well. For discarding it is fantastic, and you can reanimate it. Something like that. Pretty good. You got Aghanin's Awakening. This is basically just a free card because it's a modal card. It's a land on the other side as well. So the MDFCs, if they're lands and I can play them, I'll play them, and this just makes sense. It's a sorcery that returns your return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creatures that each have a different mana value of X or less. You're going to be discarding a lot of cards, getting them all back for not for free, but for a decent amount of mana is not bad. Balagad Recovery is the same situation. It's an MDFC, so it really, in my opinion, just counts as like a utility land almost. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Allows you to discard if you want to play your commander again, or bounce your commander or whatever. It allows you to do that again. This deck does play flicker spells, so you'll have to have... like I said, it's very Atraxa-like. Maybe Atraxa-Light? It's not as powerful, but it's very strong. Culling Ritual is just a very strong, important card. The more degenerate decks that you play against, the better this will be. The ones that are playing all the Moxes and the Soul Rings, everybody's playing Soul Ring, but all the 2 mana and less artifacts, all the clues and the treasures and everything that's 2 artifact or non-permanent with 2 or less, this just wrecks their day, and you get tons of mana. So I think it's very important to run. If you can run it, I'd run it. Demonic Tutor, just a tutor that gets any card from your library to your hand for 2 mana. Fantastic. Farseek's just for mana ramp. Living Death, because you're discarding a bunch of creatures to Indominus Rex. If the board state gets out of hand, swap all those creatures to the battlefield. You're good to go. That's what it does. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, and then put all cards that they were exiled this way onto the battlefield. You've got Nature's Lore. Nature's Lore is just another ramp spell. You've got Reanimate, just a very powerful 1 mana ramp, or not 1 mana Reanimate. Put target creature card from a graveyard, any graveyard by the way, onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its mana value. You have 40 life. It's a resource. Use it. 3 visits. This is just on the ramp spell. Toxic Deluge. As it enters the battlefield, this pay X life and all creatures get -X till end of turn. One of the great things about this is that your commander is a 6/6, and you can do it for 5 life and wipe the majority of the board. Plus, your commander will probably get more powerful than that. It'll probably be higher than a 6/6. So at a certain point, this is just a one-sided board wipe, and then your creature can just still wreak havoc. Victimize, a very, very strong reanimate spell. For 3 mana as a sorcery speed, choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen card to the battlefield tapped. I really like being able to maybe sacrifice your commander, get 2 creatures back as a reanimate spell, then recast your commander. Because you're drawing so many cards every time it hits the battlefield, you you want to use it as like an attacker, but also as an engine, so it's utilizing multiple facets. You've got an offer you can't refuse, instant spell that just is one of the best counter spells that you have to pay mana for in the game. Counter target non-creature spells, controller creates 2 treasure tokens. Most of the time the treasure tokens don't matter because you're countering something that you don't want to resolve. Sometimes the treasures give them the ability to interact again, but most of the time it doesn't. Assassin's Trophy, a very strong removal. Destroy target permanent at instant speed an opponent controls. As a controller may search their library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield, then shuffle. Sometimes people don't run basic lands, so this could just be a free kill spell. Otherwise, they get a basic land, that's fine. You gotta destroy stuff, or gotta have removal. Indominus Rex is basically, it's blue, black, and colorless, so a Dark Ritual takes care of those 3. So with Dark Ritual, this allows you to get your commander out very quickly, as fast as turn 2, basically. It's pretty good. If you got Deadly Relic, just free removal when your commander's out. Instant speed, exile target creature. As long as you have your commander out, you can pay it for free. So it's just free kill spell. It's fantastic. As I mentioned earlier, everything's enter the battlefield triggers. You draw cards when you enter the battlefield, and you discard cards and get the keyword soup when you do it. So flickering your commander is pretty good, especially if you're doing it just for value. But it also comes into the battlefield an extra 1 with counter. So I'm trying to play cards that all give it extra counters as it enters the battlefield. This is just a 1 blue, fantastic spell that does that. Since everything enters the battlefield, it's not cast. You just get to do everything again, which is great. So this is perfect for that. Fierce Guardianship is a free counter spell as long as your commander's out. So you want to be able to protect your commander if it doesn't have like the hexproof, indestructible, blah blah blah. Plus, it's just nice to have. You've got Ghostly Flicker, again, another one of those things where you have the ability to flicker your commander, but also you have the ability to flicker other things. So exile 2 target artifact, creatures, and/or lands you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under your control. So you can do a land or an artifact, to kind of like ramp or make it cost less mana, but also do for your commander as well. We've got Malika Rebirth. This is also another MDSC. Just it's a land on the other side, so it doesn't enter the battlefield tapped, which I don't love, but the actual like ability is pretty good. So at instant speed, choose target creature, you lose 2 life. Until end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. So if you do have a way to kill your commander if it's not indestructible or hexproofed, then this is a good way to prevent it from dying or make it come back and just you draw a bunch of cards. Good value there. Kind of a flicker spell. You've got Negate, very good counter spell, just counter target non-creature spell. Planar Incision, another flicker spell for an artifact or a creature, and then it comes back with a 1/1 counter for 2 mana and instant speed. Very nice. Saw in Half. This one's pretty funny. So, Saw in Half, at instant speed, destroy target creature. If that creature dies this way, controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, except that their base power is half that creature's power, and their base toughness is half that creature's toughness, round up each time. So obviously doing your commander, you're going to get the triggers. I'm not 100% sure on how the legendary works. A legendary rule works with all the triggers on the stack. You might still be able to ditch and then draw, but luckily it's any number of cards, so you'll probably only get the trigger once. So this is kind of a flicker spell, but also at the same time, there's other creatures in the deck that you wouldn't mind doing this to as well. Like Triplicate Titan, for instance, is really good with this. Yeah, so pretty strong. Just very universal kill spell. It's kind of a kill spell as well. In rare cases that matters. Swan Song, it's probably second best or even tied with an offer you can't refuse. Counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. They get a 2/2 bird. Probably better, I would say. At instant speed for 1 blue. Very strong. Vampiric Tutor is just an instant tutor that goes to the top of your library, which is great. You lose 2 life. Roly Tutor is the same thing, but you don't lose life, but it's only for creatures. Arcane Signet is a mana rock. Jeweled Lotus is a mana rock. This again helps you get your commander on turn 2. I guess in a really I guess you could do it as soon as turn 1 with a mana, Jeweled Lotus, and Dark Ritual. So you could have a turn 1 Indominus Rex Alpha. I mean, it's a god draw, but like still pretty good, especially since it like refills your hand back up. You know what? I like that. So Luxurious Gyada's Gift. So it's an equipment for 1 mana, and then it has equip Planeswalker for 1, equip creature for 3. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it, so that grows Indominus Rex Alpha very large. And then also it turns Planeswalkers into creatures, basically. So, whatever. It's mainly this there for the 1/1 for each counter you have on it. Yeah, Soul Ring's another mana rock. You got Talisman of Resilience, another mana rock. The Great Henge, very strong mana rock. So this spell costs X less to cast, or X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Tap it, gain 2 life, and get 2 mana, 2 green mana. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So this is just a very synergistic thing for just casting creatures in general. It's the Great Henge. Everybody knows how good this is. But with the commander, you draw 2 additional cards. Very nice. The One Ring. It's the One Ring. Very powerful card. It should be in about 98% of decks. So when you cast it, you gain protection from everything. 4 mana, legendary artifact. You get a burden counter. You take damage for every burden counter on it, and then you tap it, put a counter on it, and draw a card for each burden counter on it. Just a very strong card. The Ozolith, 1 colorless, a legendary artifact, a very strong card as well in this deck. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. Really, really good, because if you flick your commander, it's going to lose all of those keywords, and maybe you have better keywords than the ones you're able to put back on it, but they'll all go to the Ozolith, and then when you go to combat on that turn, you put them all back, and you drew a bunch of cards, and now it has all the keywords it had before, and it's even better now. Yeah. So it's a little like dead outside of the commander, but this deck's really around the commander. So Thought Vessel. So it's a mana rock, but it has the no maximum hand size. And really, now that I'm thinking about it, this probably should have Reliquary Tower in it as well. If it doesn't, you got Phyrexian Reclamation, a really solid enchantment. For 1 black enchantment, you can pay 2 mana, 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Like I said, you're going to be ditching a bunch of those cards, and you want to have access to your graveyard as like a secondary hand. There are a couple of like more expensive enchantments up front that they're expensive, but then they're like cheaper to activate over time. I kind of like this like really cheap to get onto the battlefield and then utilize at instant speed whenever you want. So you can kind of keep mana up for like counter spells or whatever, but then also pay the mana at just before your turn and then get the cards back. It's all at instant speed, so it's great, but there are a couple other enchantments that are very similar in what they do here. Tortured Existence, I think, is one where you like swap one from your hand to the graveyard and then the graveyard comes back to your hand. That one's also really, really cheap. That one may be better than this. But it does require you have another creature in your hand, which you probably will. Ancient Tomb, just a really solid mana. Dual land, fetch land. Boseiju, really solid channel ability. So you have the ability to discard it and destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. They get a basic land, and it's less for every legendary creature you have. It's already really, really cheap, so it's probably only going to be 1 green. Very strong land. Dual land. Cavern of Souls, you want this because most likely your Indominus Rex Alpha is going to get countered if you don't have a counter, because it's on Enter the Battlefield, so it's not on cast. So this is nice to have for dinosaurs, and I think there's a couple other dinosaurs in the deck that you can use this to cast, but it's mainly there for the commander. Crop Rotation might be a good addition to the deck, just so you can kind of guarantee if you need to, or at least double the chances of drawing a Cavern of Souls. Dual land, some actual lands. Opal Palace, this one, it's a filter land, taps for colorless normally, but if you spend this mana to cast your commander, enters the battlefield with an additional number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of times you've cast it from your command zone this game. What's great about that is that you want extra 1/1 counters. Not only does it make it larger, but it also you draw a card for each additional 1/1 counter on it, which is fantastic. Ottawa, just a really solid channel ability as well. Return target artifact, creature, or enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So it's cost a decent bit, but channel abilities are very hard to interact with, and they're at instant speed, so it's just a really solid land. And it comes into play untapped. It's just very, very strong. Okay, I do have Reliquary Tower, fantastic, because you are going to be drawing lots of cards. You want a couple different ways of having no maximum hand size, so this makes sense. It's a 3-color deck, but there's enough mana fixing in green to take care of that. A couple of basics, and then you've got Takaduma, Abandoned Mire, very strong, another channel card. Mill 3 cards, then return a creature card or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Costs 1 less for every legendary creature you control. It just gives you the ability to filter a little bit more cards and get the best cards for your commander to get the best keywords. Yawgmoth, just for, or Urborg, just for the making everything a swamp to make stuff easier to cast. And I think the other ones in here as well. Yabimawa as well for forest. The majority of the deck, I think, is black and green, so it makes the most to have. Makes sense to have those. Of course, the Triome, and that is the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any cards in here that I don't have in here. Basically, like I said, Keyword Soup. It's going to be fantastic. There are some other cards. I've got EDH Rec. There's going to be a couple other cards that I'm not running that I'm playing other cards in because I'm kind of focusing specifically on like the extra counters from other things like the Grey Henge and Biophagus and whatnot. So yeah, thanks for watching everybody, and hope you all enjoy, and see you on the next one.